Growth is extremely uncomfortable. If you wait for growth to be comfortable, you'll never do it. There's no place that will come that you prefer. Now I'm comfortable to make a change. Change and growth is uncomfortable. I started doing more dreaming than working. You see, where you are in cloud nine, where you are seeing this big business, you driving this thing, having this big office, having these employees, but you're not working towards it because now you feel as if what you're working is nothing. That sacrifice has to be made to see change or to get a transition. Insanity is pretty simple. That if you try, do the same thing over and over again and expect the same result, if that's who you are, then you're insane. So I decided, let me remove sanity from my head. I decided to get help. And that was one of the best things that happened to me, getting help. So welcome to our first podcast since we rebranded, and we are so excited to have you here. I have a lot of things to share with you when it comes to building a creative business, or rather, being a seasoned creative. I've been having a lot of thoughts, and today I decided let me talk about growth, because growth is extremely important to a person, leave alone a business, to you as a person, because if you don't grow, then anything that you touch does not grow. And something that I have noticed is growth is uncomfortable, but it is necessary, and this is what you're talking about today. So I hope you're listening, and if you are, don't keep this to yourself. Be the salt that seasons another. Welcome to the Seasoned Creative Podcast. I took a break from creating content for a while is because things changed in my life. Things changed in my business, and there was too much that was happening. And it was time to go to the next level or go home. I mean, it was either go big or go home. And believe me, things changed. And they changed in several ways. Let me give you examples. What happened is that, first of all, we doubled our income. And that's something that I could not believe I'm saying. We really doubled our income. Then we went international in terms of doing business and getting clients. And number three, finally, I got partners to my business, and amazing partners. And that explains why the two things that I've just spoken about are happening, because partners just come to take your business to the next level. So in this episode, the journey of scaling a business is what we are talking about. And we are talking about what happened to my specific journey, because I have to start with my own example before I bring others, and what exactly happened to my specific journey, and to break down lessons that I have learned. And I have divided them into three sections. Number one is where I was, what was the status quo. And number two is what did I do to change the status quo. And number three, things I had to sacrifice. And number three is so important because to change the status quo, things had to be sacrificed. I had to sacrifice a lot of things. And I use the example of, in the country that I live in, Kenya, we had to get independence. And to get independence, some people had to lay down their lives. The people we call the heroes of our nation. In South Africa, people like Nelson Mandela. In our country, people like Dedan Kimathi. And that sacrifice has to be made to see change or to get a transition. And those are the three things we're talking about. So let's start with status quo. Where was I in all this process? Where was I so that I can make the change? I have been running my business alone from the time I started our businesses. I started as a freelancer in the year 2015, and then in the year 2018, I decided now to register a business called the J Creative Studio. In 2018, I decided to start an agency, a production agency called Artlink Agency, which is now the Artlink Agency Limited, which is a production and marketing agency, which is run by two of my great friends and partners, that is Sharon Muthoni and Eric Muremi. And then in 2020, I decided to start an education platform called Photo Launch, which is now also part of Artlink Agency Limited. That's where I was. And I was doing all this alone, trying to figure out all these things, marketing strategy, research. I mean, I was running three separate businesses alone. And it happened that several things happened to me. And number one, after a few years of running these things alone, I got stagnant, and there was stagnation. And I realized that nothing was going, nothing was moving, nothing was mobile. We were not growing, we were not flowing, we were not moving. And and in this way, we were not getting more clients. I was not getting more money. I was not buying more equipment, and I was not getting any more motivated. I mean, what had started like a passion was now a bother. And that's when I saw a form of stagnation close to deterioration. Number two, there was a lot of limitation. So, a book that I'm reading right now called The E-Myth says that my level of thinking and knowledge limits how I do business. And it's a book by Michael E. Gerber. And I repeat it that the level of my thinking and my level of knowledge of business limits my business. And I realized that because I was alone trying to do everything. Remember, business is about administration, legal, you're the legal person, you're the finance guy. I mean, you're everything in the business, and yet you need to satisfy the clients by the service you say you offer. And so it easily became overwhelming. And there was limitation. Now, I was limited in several ways. Number one, the amount of business I could get, whom I could engage for business, and what business I could pursue. What I mean is, the amount of business I could get is how many customers could I serve. I was limited because I was alone. Number two, whom could I engage for business? Now, because I was a small business, I could not have negotiation power for bigger business. And number three, the business I could pursue. I could not even pursue government tenders because my business was small with no even certification. And the thing that limited me that was because my business registration I did not have business registration, or I had a sole proprietorship business registration, and my skill was limited to only one thing: photography and filmmaking, and my business did not have any structures or systems. So that's where I was. And number three I had was a lot of fear. Now, of course, if you're a pioneer of anything, of course you have fear of losing this thing. And so, being a founder, these businesses are your babies. And I know all of you understand me. Your business is your baby. But what happened is that a baby needs to grow, get its own wings, like a baby eagle, and start flying on its own. That's the only way it can be able to grow and also have its own babies. And the reasons why I felt a lot of fear is that I will expose myself and my business to a lot of things. For example, competitors, taxes from the government, the fear of failure, that what if I scale and then ikosa kufanya kazi and I will still come back to the same place. That fear of failure. And number four, which is the most important, I fear that I will lose control. I will lose control. And let me tell you, that was my biggest fear, losing control. Now, we are going to discuss about that in our future episode about giving up. But that was my greatest fear. And finally, my personal health was what was deteriorating the most. And remember, running 3 businesses, you want all of them to succeed. You have clients to solve, you have websites to create, you have structures you think you want to create alone. I mean, I was working in my business instead of working on my business. And it became pretty bad, pretty fast. It became clear that I was I was going in the wrong direction with the wrong strategy. And what happened to me is that I started getting anxious, not knowing what will come next or how the next month will be. I started doing more dreaming than working. You see, where you are in Cloud9, where you are seeing this big business, you driving this thing, having this big office, having these employees, but you're not working towards it because now you feel as if what you're working is nothing. And number 3, I was stressed more and more and more because things were not getting done. And because of those 3 things, which is personal health, fear, limitation, and stagnation, I felt that needs to be get done. In fact, I decided not to be an insane person. And you see, insanity is pretty simple, as we normally say it, that if you try do the same thing over and over again and expect the same result, if that's who you are, then you're insane. So I decided, let me remove sanity from my head. The strategy I've been using is not working. I need to look for a different strategy. And that's when I decided to change the status quo. And one thing is, I decided to get help. And that was one of the best things that happened to me, getting help. The first thing I did is I needed to get partners. And why partners, you may ask? We talk about partnership and having partners and the dynamics of partners in a business as we continue with this podcast. I'm telling you, please subscribe to this podcast because it is so much valuable. I'm even learning myself Myself, I'm learning as I teach you these things. My desire was to grow my businesses or to go through these businesses beyond myself. I did not want a situation where I am tagged to the business where if I left, nothing would continue. And so I thought, if I'm building something for my children, my children's children, or my grandchildren, and my wife, and people who will come after me, I need to re strategize about wealth creation and building a sustainable business. And to do that, I had to get partners. When I was choosing these partners, I had to use a particular criteria that I had learned from talking to my business mentors. And number one, they had to complement me, meaning they had to have different strengths that I had. They had to come and join where I was weak. I'm telling you, that's such an important trait of a partner. If a partner is coming to complement you, then you have so much chemistry and you will always find yourself working together. Number two, they had to be better than me. I mean, there is no need of having partners who cannot challenge you. They had to be better than me in some ways or many ways. And I had to remove that insecurity of having people who will come and challenge me because it means they're challenging you, but it has to be done. And number three, they had to put me into accountability. So there are people that I honor, first of all, people I respect, and there are people who also have their own status in their own right. So there are people who could question me. And those are the three traits. Compliment me, a partner who would compliment me, a partner who is better than me, and a partner who would put me into accountability. And I'm telling you, did I not get partners like that? And I'm telling you, for the past around 7 months that we have been in business, I have seen so much change. The kind of lessons I'm learning even as a person on how to deal with people, deal with partners, relate with people, build relationships, build leadership capabilities and capacities. It's so much. I don't know why I had not done it before. That's number one. Number two, I decided to remove some of the limitations. And the number one limitation we did is we needed to re-register our business to a place where we could have negotiation power. Now remember, my business was initially a sole proprietorship, meaning my liability is the business liability, the business liability is my liability. But then some of businesses in Kenya, especially in our country, do not want to work with a sole proprietorship or a partnership. We wanted to change what businesses we could get. We wanted to change which companies we could work with and talk to, and of course, how much liability could we handle as the business. And so we decided to register a limited liability company, and so we changed the entire name Artlink Agency to Artlink Agency Limited. And finally, we set up things, we set up legal, all those things. We use some people to help us, and we set up. And now we are a proper company which is building structures, which has directors, which is it's a legal entity, and it has really changed the dynamics of how we do business. Number three, we had to build proper businesses. Now, a business is not a certificate that you have in your email. Absolutely not. Businesses is systems that solve problems to specific clients and you get paid. A business is not even a person. A business are systems that solve a particular problem for a particular client, and the client pays. And so we had to properly now build a business, start developing systems, structures, policies, procedures. Remember, our goal is to build businesses that will outgrow us. For example, if Sharon and Eric and I went for holiday, our business would still run. That is the aim. And so we had to build those businesses. We are still building them. It's a lot of work. I mean, we may use the next 2 or 3 years to build proper systems for business to run. But that is our main aim. So building systems, whether it's legal, financial, marketing, production, HR, to make sure that we have these systems in place so that we just bring a person to run the system. And that's how you run a business. And finally, we needed to have an income strategy. Now, cash flow is king. If you don't have money in your business, you don't have a business. So what we needed to do, we needed to change our income strategy. Normally, we were sitting down in the house, waiting for clients to come via Instagram or Facebook or email. I mean, we were expecting something magic to happen. But then we needed to change our income strategy. Number one, how do we get these clients? We need to go and pitch, send proposals. Number two, What are the best kind of clients? Are those who give us project basis? Project bases are good, but one of the important things we need to understand about a business is predictability of income. You need to know or be able to predict a specific amount of income that comes. Because if you can predict income, then you can be able to plan for it. You can be able to take an office, get an employee. You can be able to budget for buying of equipment. So we decided to go with a method called the retainer method. It's called the RCP method. So get several clients on retainer, they pay you per month, and then you are able to sustain your business through a predictable source of income. Then as you look for these other projects like tenders or big projects that come, then you can be able to use those to do big projects, but at least you know there is consistent amount of money every month. Why? Because you want to be able to project and plan for your business. Now that is extremely important. So those are some of the income strategies we're going to talk about more later in the podcast episodes, but we had to change our income strategy. Now when those 4 things were done, there are several things, however, that I, as a person, I had to sacrifice. And when you come to this level where now you want to grow a business, you need to get partners, there are things you have to give up and sacrifice. And to me, the biggest thing that I had to sacrifice was control. First of all, remember, as my personality is, I am a firstborn, and I have been raised to be the one who is responsible, who is in control. And to me, I feel if I'm not in control, it's a raw deal. But in this scenario, I had to give shareholding, I had to give decision making rights to my 2 other partners. And now they have the same right as me to make the decision. They can say no to my idea, they could say yes to my idea. And I mean, that's a lot of control to give up. It was control of finances. First of all, finances, you know, money, guys, money. So I had to give up control of finances, control of decisions. I mean, that control really made me go crazy at some point. But then looking now proactively, it was a decision to finally, the goal is grow a business that can outgrow us, that can run when we are not there. In the sacrifice of control, in the things that we have to shit over, that's why we are able to get the results we are getting. And this has taught me a very great lesson that growth is extremely uncomfortable. If you wait for growth to be comfortable, you'll never do it. There's no place that will come that you prefer. Now I'm comfortable to make a change. Change and growth is uncomfortable. Take an example of a seed. You plant a seed to the ground, and the first thing that happens as the seed germinates, that the radical and the shoot have to break forth from the entire coating of the seed so that they can be able to sprout. The shoot and the root have to rupture through the seed. And it's not comfortable, it's uncomfortable. And that's growth. Growth comes with a lot of stretching, meaning now you have to create more space, meaning you have to accommodate more things, meaning now you carry more people. Some people depend on you. I mean, growth is uncomfortable. However, in that discomfort, there is necessity. Growth is uncomfortable but necessary. If you don't grow, then there is no need of you doing the thing. You need to see something grow from a small thing to a big thing to a bigger thing to the biggest thing. I mean, that's the beauty of life. You see things grow. Really relating to this topic because my daughter, as we speak, as of the recording of this video, is 8 months old. And the joy I'm seeing is every day her evolving and growing, being able to do something new over and over again. And I'm so excited to see what happens in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, 20 years to my daughter and also the other children that God is going to bless us with. And however, it's uncomfortable. It's not. The other day, my daughter was not feeling well because her teeth were coming out and she was discomforted. She was crying. She was having some slight fever. And I realized it's a process of growth, meaning the teeth sprouting out had to bring that discomfort to the body. And I realized, growth is extremely uncomfortable, but it was necessary. There is no way my daughter will be able now to crush hard food if those teeth don't develop. But the process of developing those teeth comes with discomfort for her. And that's something you want to understand. So look at yourself. Where are you? Where do you want to go? There's a process in between. The question is, are you ready for the discomfort? Because it won't be easy. Are you ready to sacrifice something? If you're ready to sacrifice something, then go ahead. But note that at the end of the day, growth is necessary. So that's my short story and journey, showing you what was the status quo where I was. I was limited. I was stagnating. Did not have pass. My mental wellness was just going bad. And when I decided to make the decision, the things I decided to get partners, I decided to have an income strategy, have a proper growth of business. And those things have brought us to growth, substantial growth for this almost 7 months that we have been in business. And we have seen the results for it. Now, with that, hope to see you in the next episode, and I hope that you will continue pondering on these things because we want you to become a seasoned creative. Remember that this podcast is to make you better in every way, from your attitude, motivation, and mentalities, and that is how you become seasoned. And for questions, make sure that you leave it in the comment section below, and we'll give you an answer either through a video or a newsletter. Until the next episode, be the salt that seasons another. Cheers.